What's up? What's up, Insane Rhetoric? How y'all doing this morning? You know what it is. The world is upside down, and we're trying to what? Make it right side up. Listen, listen. The show is gonna be awesome on today. We just heard just to chop it up about different topics that we have in our society. We just trying to let you know, just come on in, and let's enjoy this ride. That is what? Insane rhetoric. Let's get into it. What it do, sister? What it do?
How y'all how y'all doing out there? Hello,
You was
y'all. Good morning,
y'all.
y'all.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hey, hold
Good
on. Hold
morning,
on.
y'all.
Hold on, sister. I gotta put you in your key. You was a little pitchy right there. Let's go
Good
back
morning,
again.
y'all.
There
Oh,
we
you want me
go.
to do? Okay.
How you doing? You was a little pitchy. I was like, wait a minute, that ain't the key. I need you to go to A flat, please. A flat. So what's going on?
Okay, I sing a G sharp. I'm just saying G or
Listen,
E
you at
sharp.
least you know there's a G sharp instead of Z flat. At least you know there's a G sharp, so that's what's up. So what we talking about today, sister? What's going on? Who we got joining us today?
So we have back with us. He calls himself the talking white guy. Talking white guys in the room. No, I'm just kidding. And returning with us live today, straight from She Shed is Lynn. Lynn is
Oh,
with us today. Good morning, y'all.
Lynn.
So as you know, this past several weeks, we've been exploring the effects of alcoholism.
Right.
And so we promised y'all a part two when
Cool.
we
Cool.
wrapped
Cool.
up the show with Token White Guy. And then we spent some time in the She Shed with Lynn, and each one has told their personal story, but and their personal journey. But we decided to bring them both back for part two to
Cool.
finish this off and just kind of like because we promised y'all we was going to talk more about the suicide aspects, and both of them uh, we're very honored that both of them uh, shared their stories with us, and both of their stories included about with uh, suicide.
Cool.
And so we thought we'd bring them both on to complete this story, bring it full circle. And y'all like, subscribe, follow, because both of these episodes have been very powerful, um, very strong, very hard for both of them and for us. And but also inspiring. And so y'all know it is that rhetoric. We be trying to do something with our world. It's a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, we ain't always crazy. We try to make sure we put out content that is definitely helpful to people and our communities that we all live in because everybody needs a voice. And I just say that sometimes some people just want to be heard, and listened to. Those are some of the things that I have found out through my life journey that sometimes it ain't always you trying to figure out somebody's problem. It's about them actually communicating the information to you so they can get it off them and feel better. Because a lot of things happen when people don't have no outlet to talk to people about what's going on in their life, and then they start down roads of destruction. So I mean, sometimes just like we say here, shut up and listen.
Yeah, we say shut up a lot. I do anyway.
Or hit you in the throat. That'll help you shut up too.
Yeah, yeah. I like to say I want to punch you in the throat, in the throat.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're back here talking about. I want to tell y'all this. I found this out. So this, y'all, I'm getting this from. I like y'all know how we like to have facts because we don't like to do fake news. Facts from reputable places.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm getting this from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. Okay. This particular study of alcohol, this was suicide deaths increased more among women than compared to men. We kind of touched on it in the She Shed. We touched on this in the She Shed a little bit. That's why we had the She Shed episode, because for women, it's kind of more silent than men. Not that it's not silent for men, but it's more silent because we so busy being superwoman. For everybody.
Bringing home the bacon and frying it up in a pan.
Yeah, right. And we don't let you forget you the man. Well, okay, some of us do, but okay. But anyway, do they still make Angelique? We might need to see if we can get a sponsorship from them. Cause okay, anyway, so here are the numbers. This study was also included data from the National Violent Death Reporting System. So there were 115,000 suicides that were studied. 87,000 men, 27,000 women ages 18 and up. Now, this was the study. You know, the studies are always a little bit behind the year, right? So this was 2003 to 2018.
That's a good span of time.
Now, the suicides among people who had a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08 or greater were the ones that were considered alcohol involved. So they had to have a 0.08 or better. Okay. Whew. The blood alcohol concentration raised significantly each year for all the women age groups. The greatest increase was among women over 65.
Wow. Wow.
So middle-aged men had a significant yearly increase of alcohol-involved suicides as well, but women, it was age 65.
So let me ask you this, Ice. What was the stats for the year of 2019 going into COVID?
What, suicide?
Yeah, alcoholism and suicide.
Okay, keep talking. I have to look that up.
Okay, so because I was just interested because you know, when COVID started, there was quarantine for everybody, and I don't know what the statistic was, but I know people who were married during that time and their spouses had to stay home, then the divorce rate went up also. You know what I'm saying? It's because it was so people weren't used to seeing their spouse every day like that. And then if you have people who are having issues and started to drink and different things or was already drinking, then I would think that from 2019 up into the end of what we call COVID, or that time span would be greatly increased on suicides and divorce rate and alcoholism and drug addiction because people spend too much time with each other that they're normally not spending that type of time with. You know, I can actually see the suicide rate of women going up and alcoholism of women going up because you are exactly right. I think moms have to be everything to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And then the point about that is they usually don't have time for themselves. Because if they're not, like you say, bringing home the bacon and fried it up, like Liz said, then they're doing that. They're getting kids dressed for school. They're cooking breakfast for kids. They're helping kids study. It's so much that goes on in a woman's world that people take for granted. And I mean, literally, they are a superwoman. But you know, some of these women now under the age of 30, they Wonder Woman. You wonder what they can do because they can't do nothing.
You need to quit. Okay, so in 2020, 99,000. In 2019, it was 78,000. So, 2019 was the COVID been around since the 60s.
Yeah,
but it was the end of 2019 where they just started really kind of talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So 2020, it hit hard. So we don't know if that's really a true number because, nobody knew about the pandemic and all of that. But 2020, right. we soared from 78,000 to 99,000 for 2020.
That's astronomical jump.
Now, you remember they talked about the fact that during COVID, people were locked up and alcohol consumption zooped up because people didn't have anything else to do but sit at home and drink. They couldn't go to work.
And make COVID babies.
And they made COVID babies. Yeah.
Whoops.
So, yeah.
What we think about that, y'all? What we think about that number, those numbers, suicide related to COVID?
Well, I wouldn't expect anything else because, I mean, I don't like being, and I would be interested to know how many of those people lived with families and how many people lived alone, because I live alone with my 3 dogs. And I couldn't, everything shut down. Well, I started inviting a few gals over to my house on Wednesday nights. And we just wore masks and stuff because I cannot spend all that time alone. I just can't. And so, you talk about the people who got married and how bad it was for them. Well, people living alone, it wasn't so great for us either. Yeah. And a lot of people got really depressed, whether they were drinkers or not. And a lot of drinkers, even people who had sobriety, they didn't go to the recovery programs anymore. They got those things going on Zoom. But if you're a people person, that's not the same.
Yeah. That's true.
So unless you're a person like me, that I'm okay with not going outside. That pandemic didn't bother me. Like I was I wanted to go outside.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a loner, but like I still like to be around some people at some point in time. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll go to the mall not because I want to shop, but just to be around people. I'm really an introvert because I get a lot of satisfaction out of doing things on my own, but I still like breathing people around me. Right. I like to hear people talk and laugh or whatever.
Well, the natural thing for human beings is to be around people, whatever your religious preference is. If it's not even one of them, it tells you that you weren't designed to be alone. So I mean, people, that's the natural makeup of people, to be around other people. So I mean, what have you.
Do you all remember the time of year it was when you both contemplated taking your life? Do you remember what time of year it was? Like, was it winter? Was it beginning of the year, end of the year? Do you remember that?
It was August for me.
I'll never forget it. It was December for me.
Wow.
Because this article is talking about the time of year and how they notice they're talking about the mental health struggles that people had during the pandemic, but they're also talking about how alcohol deaths are related to the time of year.
I bet I know the highest one.
After the holidays, so after February, after the holidays, during the holidays
Mhm.
when we're being merry, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just gonna say, I bet Christmas is one of the highest before Christmas and right after Christmas because people spend more money through that time that they usually don't have, not everybody, that they usually don't have. And then they start getting remorseful about being in debt coming out of that time of year.
Yeah, buyer's remorse. And
Yeah. Yeah.
And this article also relates to the fact that drinking at home, and I'm sure that this plays a big part in. I mean, I'm okay. I can imagine. That's the correct wording. I can imagine that this plays a big part too in alcoholism. Is that if you're drinking at home, um, there's no bartender. You're your own bartender.
Yeah.
So no one's there to regulate the size of the drink.
Yeah.
You know,
You can
you
have a
go.
heavy hand.
Look, you got the two
Well, you
fingers.
can just drink right out of the bottle, and there's nobody there to stop you.
Right.
There was
you
no
still got a heavy
process.
hand. And you just got the bottle.
That
When I started going to my self-isolation, there was no bartender. There was no mixing process. It was straight from the bottle every single
Yeah,
time.
you just, I mean, sometimes I would pour it in a cup.
Listen,
Oh,
that gives
bougie
the
girl.
listen,
I
that
was like,
gives the real meaning to the saying turn up.
yeah. So that's what they're talking about. With regards to being at home versus being out. But both of you talked a lot about being out was a big part of your thing. Like I think Lynn, you called it, man, I love to party. And you related that to, then versus now, and you were like, okay, yeah, I like being around people, but I finally figured out I don't have to drink. I do like to have a party. I do like to have friends over, but I figured out I didn't need to drink. And
Did you party like a rock star, Lynn?
I did. I loved to party. But that the reason mine happened in August was because I spent that whole summer drinking by myself at home. It reached the point where no, I'm just going to stay here by myself and do it.
Well,
And that was my
it's cheaper.
awakening.
It's cheaper. You don't have to tip no bartender. You don't have to do none of that.
Well, you don't have to waste your time getting in the car and driving somewhere.
Yeah, and making your insurance go up from a nice accident on the way back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cost effective at home. So my question to both of you guys is I don't know no other way to say it other than to be straightforward. Did a lot of people that I know and that has been around me has had problems stemming from home as a kid that eventually started to show when they got older? Did any of you have any of those issues that propelled you to be and go through your alcoholism at that certain time in your life? Or was it just a straight home family that everything was good? Or because sometimes being at home and having a home life, sometimes things can be too good and you want to go against the grain of what the family expects of you. You know what I'm saying? So is any of those and were those any of you guys issues at any point in time in your life?
I've thought about that many times, and I want to apologize to my family. I said I came from a decent family. I come from an amazingly supportive family. They're the ones that really got me into the program to start working my sobriety because they were worried. And yeah, so my mom, dad, and sister all went to Mizzou. I didn't study because I was just being a moron. And I was like, I'm going to make it to the major leagues. So I went to a different school, and I felt like I was the black sheep. And it just, I know I've touched on this before with getting, denied and embarrassed. And alcohol is just what became, everything. I mentioned before, I am the only alcoholic in my family. I am the first. Most children are very proud when they say, I'm the first one to graduate high school in my family or college. I'm the first alcoholic. That's just kind of how it went. And I just used it for everything. I didn't know what to do. And like I said last week, or 2 weeks ago, it became my identity. So, I don't really know exactly when my mind started turning in that direction, but it started young.
So
Yeah.
go ahead, Lynn.
Well, I mean, for those who heard my story last week, yeah, I can't blame my alcoholism on my upbringing, and it was great in many respects. And then we dealt with my dad was an alcoholic, although I don't really remember that much about it. And my mom had a lot of nervous breakdowns, and there's 5 of us, and I was the first one who decided that there's an easier, softer way if I just start partying, and that was in high school. Because I just never felt love.
Mm.
I wasn't close to my mom, and um, yeah, I just felt like I never fit in.
And see
And
that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Lynn.
well, so I was the first one to start acting out. My older brother and sister, their solution was to prove how worthy they were. My solution was to say fuck it and just drink and party. Um, but in the end, all 5 of us have an issue with addiction, either with alcohol, drugs, or both.
Hmm.
So, but I'm still, since I was the first one, I mean, I'm still kind of considered the black sheep of the family. My 2 older siblings who are not in any kind of recovery program, they don't even talk to me anymore.
Mm. That's crazy. And see, that was some of the things that I was saying about like upbringing and different things that happens in a household, because everybody household has a different type of dynamic. What they expect of you. What I learned years ago, if you tell somebody's child that they won't be nothing enough, they'll wind up shooting for it not to be nothing. you know. So that's what I was saying, that, sometimes, you have a dynamic in a household that is not always conducive to every child in there. And like you said, Lynn, you just like, I'm not gonna prove to you how worthy I am. I'm just gonna go the other way and do my own thing. You know what I'm saying? Where the other two, there's probably beckoning at hand. I'm gonna do whatever you want me to do to get what I want done. You know what I'm saying? And then eventually you get tired of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just amazing that people see people in different lights. And I like, with the COVID situation, I think a lot of that stems from people don't know who they are. One of the worst things that you can do to a person is put them in jail. And I told my co-host this, and token white guy once before. One of the worst things you can do is put a person in jail. But one of the worst things behind that is put them in a hole, because it's isolation. If you not used to dealing with you and knowing how you are, you will make yourself go crazy and off the deep end. So and that's what we was talking about, Miss Lynn, that you have to be around people. Even in jail, you have a population that you are around. But when you pull a person away from that and do something else with them, now you gotta see you for who you are, because you can't argue with nobody but you. So it's like, you know, excuse me, I don't know anything about that, but other than the people that I talk to and the people that's around me and help me understand. So once they tell me, they say, man, listen, it comes down to you and you. That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
And, we talk
I
about,
I never knew what I liked because when, back when I grew up, we all played baseball or softball. We all went to a small private school. We all did soccer, we all did scouts. And so, I didn't excel at that, and it was in high school when I took trigonometry because my older siblings did, and I could not do it. And I had to drop out and was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm quitting sports. I'm quitting everything,
Mm,
because it was like, I just, that's not me. But I had no idea until I went through this journey and got sober, who I was.
hmm
I didn't know what my interests were, know what my opinions were. I
Right,
really didn't know anything about myself.
right, right. And go ahead, token white guy. You trying to say something?
oh yeah, it's it is crazy because like I am such an extrovert. Like I am such a people person. I love like learning what makes people tick, like what they do, what their interests are. And I used to love just like partying because I just got to be around everybody. And then when we started when the problem happened, when everything really started going south is when I started self-isolating.
Mhm.
And that was like just horrible. And then I talked about how I go to AA, and it's like one of my favorite things to do. And I know that sounds really ridiculous to somebody who doesn't understand, but I enjoy being around people again. And I just Lynn and I've been to her house. We have like dice nights, and we grill.
Dice nights. Y'all shoot
Left,
dice?
right, center. It's a dice game.
Oh,
Yeah, we
I was gonna say y'all shoot dice.
oh yeah, we do it in the hood. We do it in the alley.
Like, I didn't shoot dice in the alley, sorry.
Dice
No,
night.
but it's so nice because if you think about how many of us in the program that are alcoholics that used to just self-isolate, we now have so many events that we all do together. And we went from the self-isolation to knowing that like, hey, these people are just like me and we're all going through stuff, and the support system is unbelievable. And I
Yeah.
think that's the most
Last
beautiful
weekend
part.
they had a party in the park, and there were three bands. It was a park that had a amphitheater. There were three bands. There were food trucks, and
Hmm.
it was for there were signs, no alcohol beyond this point. It was awesome.
Yeah. See, that's what's
Good
up.
reminders.
So my next question is this, and I know I can pretty much gauge that both of you would tell me no, but this is my next question. So, do you think that it was selfish that you started like this and then just forgot the concerns of the people who loved you and who were around you? Or do you think that it wasn't selfish and you was just doing what you wanted to do? Because one thing that we do know whoever has any type of addiction or problem, some people like to call it, whatever you want to phrase it. And it hurts people around you, not just for them being lashed out from that person that has the problem, but for them to see you go through it. So how do y'all feel about that? That how do you feel when you was in that situation? Did you was like, skip it? I ain't caring. Or even at your lowest of low, were you concerned about the other people who was concerned about you?
I didn't give a flying fuck. I was so selfish. I got so drunk on my birthday back in like 2019. We were going to Charlie Gito's. My
Right.
family was taking me. They were already there, and my dad called me, and he goes, "Hey, buddy, we're here. You there yet? Are you pulling up? And I'm like, oh shit. I hadn't even gotten out of my bed. I'd passed out. And I'm like, oh my God, all right, I got to pull myself together. I got to look decent, put on a button down, drove there. You know how that's going. And then, of course, I had the selfish ability to Snapchat it. I'm walking in and I'm like walking into my own birthday 45 minutes late like a fucking rock star. That is selfish as hell because my family set aside that time to celebrate my birthday. And it was awful. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I screwed up shit with girlfriends, my family, the people that really cared about me and supported me. I didn't care. I was doing what I wanted to do all the time. It's a pathetic way to live.
So,
Well-
okay, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, first, I need to say, if for anybody who happened to listen on She Said last week, that I owe an amends to someone who did not even hear the show, but I said a lot of, a lot of the negative things about my 20-year marriage, but that guy stuck through me for the 15 years of our marriage where I was drinking and cheating and just, having a good time. So I have no idea where I'd be today if he had not stuck by me through that. But, in our alcoholism, we do hurt a lot of people, and it certainly is very selfish. But, quite honestly, when we're in that addiction, we don't really realize it. But at the same time that we're being selfish, at least for me, I was being selfish by my drinking and my actions. But at the same time, I was trying really hard to please certain people. But I did realize, and that's kind of how I ended up, my drinking came to a head because my son came to visit for 2 weeks when I was in San Antonio. Well, he came to visit and I was sending him to rehab. And those 2 weeks that he was there with me, we partied and partied and partied. And then I put him on a plane and sent him to rehab in California. And it struck me, what in the hell, what kind of mom are you that you're sending your kid to rehab, but you're partying and having drinking and getting drunk with them? And so it kind of dawned on me that, wow, that was really selfish. That was not right. And that's when I attempted suicide.
Wow.
When I realized, wow, look what your drinking just did to him.
Wow. Yeah. You was going to say something, Ice. You said you was...
Well, yeah, I am going to say something, but I want to respond to that too. Like it's a thing with me and my children. You don't even get to drink. You ain't get to even have a drink with me until you were of drinking age. Like that's a thing. Like I can relate to her with that because it's like, how you gonna drink with your child and then tell them what to do? Like, so I totally am right there with you on that one.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say, keep
21.
on. Yeah. But you still, as a mom, you're like, should I or shouldn't I?
I didn't even think about it.
See, that's crazy because like I grew up in a household that wasn't even a factor. You know what I'm saying? It was like, no, we don't do that. We ain't drinking. That ain't something that was and that I grew up with, which is crazy. And that's why I say everybody's household, everybody's dynamic is so different.
I think my oldest daughter it was actually her 25th birthday. And I had had a birthday party for her at a restaurant. And that was the first time we had a drink together.
Yeah.
Was, her 25th birthday.
I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy because like I say, in most societies, dealing with people, like there's certain things I don't do with my kid.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's just like certain things I'm not gonna do around my child because
Mhm.
I'm trying to set that example. But some other people,
Well,
it, it
some families, it's like a thing from
yeah,
early age.
and that's what
You
I'm
having a
saying.
dinner and there's wine on the table and
Right,
everybody drinking,
right,
like it's like a cultural thing.
right. Now,
So
you're right. You're right, sister. Because like I was thinking about like some of the friends that I grew up with. I know a lot of different Italian families, and that's the culture of their family. They get together, they have food, plenty of food, wonderful Italian cooks. I mean wonderful.
Oh my
and and
God.
and they drink. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like because like Token White guy was saying about Charlie Gito's is one of the best restaurants in St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they are the deal. When you talking about authentic Italian, they are that. I mean, so you got to have a drink behind that. That pasta is wonderful.
Yes, it is.
We go
so
there almost
When I
every
was
week and
growing
have
up,
a good
we
day.
didn't, my parents never gave us alcohol, but they knew we drank when we were in high school.
Hmm.
Um, and we used to go to a lot of events up at the parish, like the end of the year school picnic and turkey shoots. And um, it's kind of a cultural thing in that religion. There's always alcohol around.
Yeah, yeah.
So, to me, it was never, and maybe that's why, my parents, they knew we drank, but, none of us got out of hand, when we started. But when
Hmm.
my, that son, the same one I just mentioned, when he was 16 and we were living in Texas, he and his friends were going to go on a float trip, four of them. So I went out and bought him a 6-pack of beer. I said, you can't go on a float trip without beer.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That was just my
no,
mentality.
no,
Well, little did I know that they had a whole, you
Whole
know,
cake.
cooler full of shit. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say earlier was, so alcohol is considered a depressant, okay? And what it's doing is slowing down the brain and the processes in the central nervous system. And it's interfering with what our brains need to do to keep good mental health. So over the long term, um, alcohol contributes to negative feelings, anxiety, that kind of thing. And so you've got nerve chemical systems relate to your mood. Okay. So people who drink can experience the feeling of depression after drinking.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I
So you stop drinking, you increase a better mood.
yeah. So like I said last week, or last show, I kind of touched on it. I'm like, depression is a real thing, and I am clinically depressed, through the doctor, and I was also using alcohol, so it pulls you down. It makes you just feel awful. The best thing that ever happened to me was seeing my mom, you know, get me into this program because I wasn't going to kick myself in the ass to go because I was being selfish. But once you hit, like they say, once you hit about 90 days of sobriety, your brain starts functioning on a completely different level. And I've noticed that. I'm not having to like think and stutter and be like, oh, well, what should I do in this situation or stuff like that. It's just like it just clicks. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, here's my brain again. It's good to have it back. And when I was drinking, right before I started working on my sobriety, I was in my kitchen and I'm like, okay, buddy, we gotta, do something. So I was like, I'm gonna get a bottle of water. All of a sudden, I had such a bad panic attack And of course, I made it worse by putting on my blood pressure monitor. So I wrap it around my arm, I lay down, and my blood pressure was like 165 over 120. And I freaked out. So then I put it back on to retest it. I was like, my blood pressure was 195 over 142. And my heart rate was like 170 beats a minute. I was having a panic attack, but I thought I was going to die. I thought I was literally having a heart attack. So I called 911. And as soon as I heard the sirens coming around the corner, I started calming down because I'm like, oh, thank God, help is on the way. But I was sweating. I mean, I was shaking. It was one of the most miserable experiences I've ever had in my life.
Is that when you were drinking or sober?
I had just started working on my sobriety.
Okay.
It was brutal.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about any time that the body takes in anything of like alcohol and drugs, the detaching situation is more severe than actually doing whatever it is a person is doing. Because once the body gets addicted to something, it craves it. It's just like anything that you do. If you're a person that works out and you work out all the time and your body is getting used to that feeling, once you stop working out, it makes you miserable because the body wants to go do that. You know what I'm saying? So when you have stuff like drugs, you know, when people get on drugs, yeah, it's a wonderful feeling. If it gets me to this place, whatever, you know. But trying to get away from that is a harder process because it is dependent on it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and the thing about it is the biggest muscle in the body is the mind. If you can convince the mind to do it, then it can be done, you know. And you guys have convinced the mind to say, okay, I don't need that no more. And I'm sure, Lynn and Token White Guy, that first day when you convince yourself was almost nearly impossible to say, I'm finna go without this today. And then it slowly got better and better and better where you say, all right, well, I'm far away from that than I was when I first started, you know. And that's the thing. If you can convince that mind to do it, that body will follow, you know. But first of all, you got to believe that you even can, you know. And that's where a lot of people fall short because they be like, it's just impossible. But it's not.
I really, I'm going to take a kind of a disagreement to that
Okay.
because, I've tried so many times to talk myself into not picking up that drink,
Mhm.
and I never could do it. And then, even once I started working in recovery, and I heard about people who tried to control their drinking, I thought, oh, well, I never tried that. So I
Mhm.
did. And it didn't work out real well. And then one day, I was making spaghetti and I went and got a bottle of wine to put some wine in my spaghetti, which I never did. And of course, I drank some and I put it down and I thought, now, why would you do that? And I never picked up another drink. But I don't think that it was anything to do with my mind.
Mhm.
I think it was getting on my knees and, continually asking my higher power, please take this obsession from me. And after that, it just went away. I never had another desire for a drink.
Hey,
And I can't explain it.
but you said something though. You said something though, Miss Lynn. It was still part of your mind because you changed your mind and said you talked to your higher power.
I always talk to them.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. So you had a connection with something that says, okay, I need you to do something that I can't do. You changed your
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, you do. You have to want it.
You changed your mind. So I mean that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
hey,
It's
listen.
just,
So let's talk about this then. because I do know that I've heard people in recovery talk about, I mean, they can be in recovery 40 years and they still say it's still one day at a time, like that. So what is it that takes, say, let's say 40 years. Okay. I've been in recovery 40 years. I've been good. I've not taken a drink 40 years. And then on 40 years and one day, I take a drink and relapse. Let's talk about relapse for a minute.
I have a story for you guys. And I mean, I've relapsed, but I'm only 415 days sober, so I've got, you know, just a bit over a year. I heard a story from somebody in the program, and they were husband and wife. They'd been 38 years and 36 years sober. They decided to take a cruise. It was all inclusive, and they were like, you know, we're okay. You know, we're gonna lose money if we don't drink. And they both went back out on the town, and they just got completely intoxicated the entire cruise and lost their sobriety and everything. I mean, it can happen anytime. You know,
I relapsed after 5 years, and I know people who have relapsed after 30 or more years. And you know, for me, it was because I got mad at a priest. And
Well, that's easy.
yeah,
Oh no, I'm sorry.
I got mad at something a priest told me when I got divorced. And I decided that, you know, I was mad at God. So, you know, I wouldn't do anything that had to do with the higher power and work in my program. I kept going to meetings. I was still sponsoring people. I was still doing everything, but I would not pray. I would not say the Our Father at the end, you know, anything. And it was a resentment. And eventually I picked up a drink. And so a lot of people, you know, they think, oh, well, you know, it's been 30 years. I got this. And then, so they stop doing their program. And the thing is, it's still, that disease is still in your brain. And if you don't treat your disease, just like if you don't take your insulin, if you're diabetic, it's going to rear its ugly head again. So recovery is not just a lifelong process, it's an everyday process.
Mm-hmm. I think that's for anything too, Miss Lynn. I'm on the other side of that spectrum. Um, I have grew up and seen my friends um, get off into drugs, get off into alcohol. Some wind up, some wind up dying, you know, being incarcerated. I think, from my perspective, it's one day at a time with me to start. You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I ain't trying to be funny, being a black male in America, I should probably be in a bottle because it's hard. You know what I'm saying? And is you don't know what you're gonna get from day to day, you know. And for me, you know, seeing people that I grew up with go through and try those different things, they were my poster boards. So I said to myself, I can't afford to be like that because they never had anything. They was always destitute. They was always without money. Some of wind up homeless, and just a array of different things. So even on the other side of that, because once you get to a certain place in your life, and if I was to start that now, who's to say that I would come out of it?
Right.
So even not being a part of that society and doing those things, life is hard already. You know, so I don't want I'm like, I don't want to add nothing to my life that would cause me to be dependent on it other than the God that I serve. You feel what I'm saying? So
I do. That's a really good point. You know, And that could be, you know, I mean, life is hard for everybody, but I'm sure, you know, I mean, I don't know. I can only imagine what people of your race go through. 'Cause this country, I mean, this country, other countries, I mean, we're so unfair to people
Yeah.
over things that should not matter.
Matter. Yeah. Yeah.
I know for me, I probably could have been, but you know, uh, pretty much all my life, and I mean all my life, I have been told that I was selfish and crazy and I talk too much all my life. Now that I'm the age I am now, I think it's really okay for me to be selfish in the way that I'm selfish. And that is, I be dang dong and delivered if you gonna tell me what to do with my life. Okay. So for me, especially being a single mom, like how in the world was I gonna be drunk, high, whatever, whatever term you're gonna put on it, and raise some kids and then tell them not to do it.
Mhm.
Right? That's selfish.
Yeah.
That's selfish.
Mhm.
Because that's selfish. Cause you weren't gonna tell me how to raise my kids. And you weren't gonna tell me that you needed to take my kids and take them somewhere and I wasn't gonna be there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was my selfishness. That's how my selfish work. You're
No,
not gonna tell me what to do. And I'm gonna, by any means necessary, in whatever circumstance I'm in, I'm gonna be in my happy space.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. I could be homeless and be happy.
I know a lot of homeless people. They ain't got no overhead. The only thing they gotta do is worry about eating. They don't have no overhead, and they are the most pleasant people to be around.
Right?
I have a story I'm going to tell you. So first of all, you know, that's a good point. Like, you know, Lynn and I, you know, I'm sure we were both very, very selfish, and I've admitted to myself and to you guys that I was very, very selfish when I was drinking. I didn't care about anybody. When you start getting your sobriety, you have to be selfish in your program in your sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee if I go back out and I take that next drink, I am screwed. Like I am going to be in big, big trouble. You know, so I have to be selfish because when I go to my meetings, like, so my girlfriend tells me, she's like, you know, hey, when was the last meeting you went to? And I'll be like, a couple days ago. She's like, are you going to go to one today? I'm like, planning on it. She's like, okay, good, because I like the sober mat. So you have to.
There you go, girlfriend. Me too.
Hey Lynn. Hey Lynn. Hey
Yeah.
Lynn. Hey Lynn. Can I borrow $5?
Sure, here you go.
Hey, she ain't got no selfish problem.
No, and you know, but you got to be the best version of you to be better for the people around you. So I know if I'm sober, my family is gonna love me. You know, I'm gonna be. I mean, they're gonna love me regardless, but I'm gonna be better to them.
They're not gonna like you though.
No. And it'll be hard to love you.
But
they would do it, but it would be hard.
I'll be a better family member, a better friend, a better Christian. You know, I'll have everything going for me. And you got to be selfish in that sense.
Yeah.
So
well,
I think there's a lot of instances that you have to be selfish in. You know what I'm saying?
Talk about homeless people. You know,
just have to be selfish about your sobriety, because like when I first stopped drinking, I went to meetings every day, every evening at 7:15 or 7. And my husband at the time told me, he says, I I don't want you going to meetings every day. You need to spend more time at home. But I had to, because it was life or death.
Yeah.
And I was just so far gone emotionally that I needed it every single day for quite a while. And so I had to do, if I'd have said, okay, I'll only go twice a week or 3 times a week or whatever, there's a good chance I wouldn't have stayed sober.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different people need,
Different things.
I needed a lot. I needed a whole lot of sobriety.
And then you think about it. I like something that you said. It was a choice between life or death. A lot of people don't understand that physical death ain't always the worst, because a person can die slowly mentally, and
Yeah,
that can be
try to commit suicide.
yeah.
That's a fucking brutal way to go out.
Yeah, it's like so, because like I say, when your mind starts thinking of things that you wouldn't normally let come across your mind, if you don't have that help that y'all had the opportunity to get, who was to say that you would be on insane rhetoric right now,
Helping somebody else.
helping somebody else?
Mhm.
You know what I'm
And that's
saying?
what it's all about.
I'm-
That's how we get over the selfishness. We give back. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't give you $5.
I
I'd
don't
give you
need
$50
$5.
if you're sitting here and you needed it. But
I just,
that's
I
one
just
thing
want
I've
to prove
learned.
my
I'll
point.
be on the plane in the
That's one thing
morning.
I've learned in the program is that when people, you don't loan people money. When people ask if they can borrow money, you give it to them if you have it, and you do not expect it back.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay, I'll see you in the morning.
hey,
I've also learned through going to Judge Judy that you don't loan people too much money, especially if it's somebody you're dating.
Oh Lord.
All right, that's a little plug
Judge
right there.
Judy
Y'all
saw
like,
the same
subscribe,
thing,
and
saw it the
follow.
same way.
lost
Like
100
and
views doing that.
subscribe and follow, y'all. Little plug for Judge Judy. Let's see if we can't get a commercial on Judge Judy's
Right.
show. Okay, anyway, click my heels 3 times. Judge Judy, Judge Judy, Judge Judy. Okay.
No,
I was on there in April of 20. I don't know. I was on her show once.
Is she as crazy as she looks on TV?
She is exactly like that. I
Wow.
was scared shitless.
Listen, me be who I be who I am. I try not to appear before judges and police.
I wanted my money back.
I get it.
Did you get it?
You're
I did.
Oh, well,
Because
sure,
see, what
good shot.
happens is the show pay. If you win, the show pays what the person owes you.
That makes sense. That
so
makes sense. Because they know, hey, just because you rule in somebody's favor and you go out the courtroom, don't mean that they still gonna pay you. So,
Right,
but if
right.
if the
That's
show,
why I went to Judge Judy, because I knew
Yeah.
I'd get my money.
yeah, well, that makes sense.
when
We
I'm
regress.
going to look for that show.
when I
See if
wake
it's
up
on
every,
YouTube.
Called Casanova Dodges Payback.
What were you saying, talking white guy? What were you gonna say?
nothing. I got 2 women on the show. You're not going to get a word in.
I told you I talk too much and I'm crazy.
Yeah,
You
we
didn't
gave
hear
you
me?
quite a bit of attention before the show
Liz-
started, if you remember,
Liz-
Matt.
Right, I was gonna say, shoot, you had all the attention when we was trying to get you set up, sir.
I know that background. I'll get it. I'll have it next
I don't
week.
know what part you don't understand. I told you just last week somebody called me crazy. Told me I was crazy. Okay, I'm crazy.
Well, see, this is the
I'm-
funny thing. Go ahead, talk white guy. Go ahead.
I forgot what the hell I was going to say.
It must not have been important.
It killed everybody.
It must not have been important.
No, I was gonna say it's amazing. Like when you wake up and you surrender to God every single day. Like the first thing I do every morning is I grab my Bible and I hit my knees and I pray. I pray for people outside of myself. And if I didn't do this and get into what I'm doing with my sobriety, I would have never met Lynn. And Lynn is one of my favorite people on earth. I give her a hug every time I see her. Like I love her. And She is just an unbelievable woman, and I'm so proud of everything she's done. And she's
Oh,
been
thank
through
you,
me
Matt.
through thick and
That's
thin.
You
what's up.
know, it's living amends. But, I want to say one thing is, because I talked a lot on She Said about, how I was looking for love, by men. And, even when I was married, I just kept looking for it. And, since I got sober, um, I, I did have a spiritual experience, kind of a burning bush moment where I understood that my higher power, who I call God, loves me. And I actually had this overwhelming feeling of complete love and peace, and I have the love that I've always been looking for. It's been there all along. I just didn't know it. And so it's not that I don't like guys or anything, but since then I haven't dated because I found the love of my life.
Mm-hmm. The
If that makes
completeness.
sense.
It makes perfect
Yes,
sense.
Jesus loves me.
Yes,
Yes, Jesus
Jesus
loves
loves
me.
me.
You do have men that love you, and those are your sons.
Oh yeah, I know,
You
but
do.
it's like I don't need,
And I think
I
love
always
is
thought I
somebody
needed
you
a
can.
man to
Yeah,
love me and
it's
put me on
that's
a
different.
pedestal. And
That's
I never
different.
needed that. That was never what I needed.
One thing people used to say all the time, and they still say it when they're in relationships with people. They say that they complete me. Well, that's a problem because if you need somebody else to complete you, you have a this something else going on with you other
Exactly.
than because I'm a whole person. Now you may enhance me, but you don't complete me. That's
Exactly.
there's two different things, you
They'll,
know.
will add to you in a positive way.
Right,
They'll,
you know.
they'll be that. So one of my favorite alcoholics of all time is Robert Downey Jr., who
Yeah.
plays Iron Man.
Yeah.
And there's this scene where the house is getting missiled, and he sends his armor to Pepper, his girlfriend, and he protects her. He gives her his armor, and
Mm-hmm.
then she uses that armor to protect him when the building starts collapsing.
Collapsing. I
And
remember
she's
that.
like, she opens it
Oh,
up and she goes, "I got you," and he goes, "I got you first." But you
I
always,
don't really know that that was Robert
huh?
Downey Jr. or maybe that was like a character he was playing.
It was Iron Man. It was in a movie,
But
but
but Robert,
the
so how
beauty.
well do you know Robert Downey Jr. is what I'm asking. He's one of your favorite sober people. I mean, how well do you know him, Matt?
I don't. I'm just saying, like
You
he's been
idolize Iron Man. You idolize Iron Man. He's gonna really beat me up. No, I'm kidding. I think
I'm
you
not
are
gonna
just normal, Matt.
I'm not gonna lay hands on you. Unless it's a hug.
I might watch that movie now. I like Robert Downey Jr. too.
Yeah, he's a
I'll
good
send
actor.
you. It's on YouTube Shorts. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It's actually like the way it's portrayed and the way that they show it is, a man will be there and give you his armor, but when the man is weak, the women will be there as their armor, and it's beautiful.
So what you read this morning in your Bible? I hope it wasn't the book of Matthew.
I did the serenity prayer. I did my third step prayer, and I was already late, like I'm pointing the wrong direction. I don't even know what the hell I'm pointing at, but I was like, I got to get on. I didn't know we were starting at 6:30, so I apologize for this delay.
Yeah, you
All
silly.
right, so last words. Matt, go.
I have a very amazing story, and I was, how, so we just talked about, homeless people that are some of the happiest people. I was right down the street from my office. I was going in just to buy a taquito, and I saw a homeless guy sitting there, and I was like, this is 2 weeks ago. I met him. He didn't even bother. He wasn't like begging for change or anything. He was just sitting there. And I was like, I felt something. And I'm like, hey, brother. I'm like, can I do anything for you? Can I help you? And he goes, I was like, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? He's like, I'm a little hungry. And I said, okay, you want to come inside and pick out something to eat? He's like, oh man, that'd be great. So while I'm in there, I saw a younger kid. I said, pick out whatever you want, I'll buy it. So I walk around and I see this kid wearing a EX, which are the Greek letters for Sigma Chi, which was my fraternity, and our badge is a white cross. It's a Christian-based, fraternity. His girlfriend had already bought him a bottle of water, and we're in there. I sat down with him and I ate with him, like literally sat on the concrete, and we're just eating and we're just talking, and he started like preaching the gospel. Out of his backpack, he pulled out a Bible, and he had some other scriptures that were in there, and we went over that. And I was like, hey man, do you have a phone? Can I do anything to help you? So we've talked every single day since, but we went over all that stuff. And he texted me, he goes, hey man, I got approved for the grant. He was living in a tent outside of a church, and he was been working with pastors and stuff, and he did 20 years in prison for robbing a bank. He was on drugs, he's an addict, and now he is living his life through the word of God because he found that his higher power. And he got the grant. He's moving into an apartment that's going to be paid for, and he's going to have an actual roof over his head. And I'm so proud of him for doing that.
That's awesome.
One of the most powerful things I think I've ever experienced.
Well, my last words, I just want to let people out there who are looking for sobriety and looking for help that, we talk a lot, I think all of us have talked about the Christian God is, and that sobriety is open to anybody. Everybody, it's not just for, my son who's in the program, he does not have the same higher power as me. That's a personal thing. So don't shy away from it thinking that it's, some kind of Christian cult, because it's not. Everybody's welcome to have their own higher power. You really just need to know that there is a higher power and it's not you. And with that, we need to end because I really need to go to the bathroom. I've been sitting here drinking a Pepsi and a coffee.
Where's the best place to find a recovery program? Do we just Google recovery programs?
You can Google. Well, my recommendation is only because I know that you can Google Alcoholics Anonymous and it'll give you an emergency number. I know there's a thing called Celebrate Recovery, but I know that's in the Christian church. You can probably just Google, how do I get sober? But I would start with calling the AA hotline. And they'll let you know, depending on what you need.
All right.
And you can do Open Chair. It's an app, and it has every meeting in your area, what times, and their locations.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, we want to thank you for joining us. And remember, as always, enough said. We don't need to say anything else.
So don't.
Just remember, as always, to enjoy the ride. That is Insane Rhetoric. And we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Love y'all. Thank you so much.